There's something wrong with Kawaki. I mean, did Ikemoto secretly remove Kawashiki's mode or transformation? Yeah, I'm Nim without an E. Let's talk a little about Kawaki before chapter 27 comes out. But before that, quick disclaimer guys, I don't know if you've already heard this theory or not. Honestly, sometimes I come up with ideas just by rereading the manga chapter by chapter, and what gives me the most inspiration are actually your comments. Not only do I really appreciate all your feedback, but I can't lie, that's where a lot of ideas come from. So yeah, I'm not claiming to be the first one to say this, but at least that's just how it is. Talking about Kawaki, have you ever felt that there was something wrong with him? Actually, I don't know what words to use to describe this, but at least I feel that since the time skip, especially during Boruto's fight with Kawaki in chapter 9, that's when I started to think that something was wrong. A mode or transformation with one horn, which I thought was his strongest mode, turned out to be something he didn't use at all when fighting Boruto at that time, because Boruto easily showed absolute dominance over Kawaki by knocking him down with one punch. But did Kawaki actually forget, or was he really unable to use that transformation mode? However, if we go back to the flashback just before the time skip, we know that the battle between Kawaki and Boruto wasn't entirely Boruto's doing, because in reality, Kawaki was fighting Momoshiki, who had possessed his body. And if we look closely at Kawaki's techniques and strength, I think we can all agree that his karma transformation with one horn truly demonstrated a terrifying dominance. Because no matter how we try to find a loophole or say that at that time Momoshiki, who possessed Boruto, was stronger than Kawashiki, the fact is that the end result shows that Momoshiki was completely cornered after Kawaki's entire black rod pierced his entire body. And at this point, I think we can all agree that Kawaki's transformation with one horn was truly unbeatable by Borushiki at that time, and once again, at that moment. However, if we go back to the previous case in chapter 9, Boruto did state that he was much stronger than Kawaki. After all, Boruto had undergone training to master his future techniques early on thanks to Kashin Koji. But honestly, this could be a matter of debate. I mean, Kawaki fought Boruto only using his base karma, which I think is on a completely different level compared to his horned karma transformation. In fact, Kawaki hadn't even fully activated his karma during that fight, because before we could even see him activate it, it triggered Boruto's karma resonance, which eventually forced Boruto to immediately move away from Kawaki. But in essence, once again, it's ridiculous and impossible to think that the horned karma transformation is weaker than the base karma without horns, right? A few hours ago, I conducted a poll on my community channel asking for your opinions on which mode or transformation is actually stronger. And even though the final results we can see in this video show that Kawaki after the time skip, more precisely after his limiter was removed, showed significant results, which means that the karma transformation without horns is stronger, I think that from now on, this poll will be more favorable for the second option. In other words, the majority agree that Kawaki's transformation with horns isn't actually that strong after the limiter is removed. But is that really the case? I mean, is it true that Kawaki basically can't consciously awaken his horn? Or was it just a coincidence? In other words, when Kawaki fought Jura in the Land of Wind, did he actually not want to use that mode or transformation? Yeah, honestly, that's a pretty silly reason, right? Because after all, thanks to Amado, Kawaki has awakened his karma powers to a level similar to Ishiki's horns. Regardless of the revelation that Kawaki has even greater potential, with powers that have not yet been fully unleashed, let's put that aside for a moment. Yes, I know that Kawaki consciously admits that in his battle with Jura, he felt that he truly dominated in terms of strength and defense. Even in the leaked chapter 27, Amado provides a narrative stating that Jura has no weaknesses and is almost immortal. But Kawaki feels confident that he still has a chance to defeat him. And one way to do that is by increasing his power once again. But of course, there's a major risk that comes with it: total damage to his body. However, if Kawaki fought Jura in the Land of Wind using his one-horn transformation mode, would the outcome still be the same? I don't think so. Even if Kawaki won, there would definitely be another alternative that would prevent Jura from ending so quickly. But one thing is for sure, the karma transformation with one horn would give him a different kind of power from what you see here. On the other hand, you surely remember that Ishiki's vessel is not only Kawaki, but also Jigen. When fighting Naruto and Sasuke, the base karma wasn't really that strong, so Jigen had to use his one-horn transformation mode. This means that the one-horn transformation mode is clearly stronger than the base karma. Isn't that right? But for some reason, I think every cyborg has the same problem. In other words, Kawaki, who has been modified by Amado through various experiments, has the same problem, especially with his horned karma transformation. And that is, he doesn't have the right, or more precisely, the ability to control his horned karma transformation mode as he pleases. Oh crap, I keep saying horned karma mode. Sorry guys if this sounds annoying, but anyway, to find proof for something like that, there are at least two similarities or analyses that support this theory. First, we believe that behind every great power, there is always a weakness, whether it's from outside intervention or even from within. In other words, that power has such a huge output, just like Ida. Behind her power to change the reality of the world or even control everyone to dislike or make their feelings normal, Ida cannot control it. This limitation in ability, in my opinion, is something normal for a cyborg itself. But surely, this is not just about Kawaki and Ida. Kashin Koji, Code, or even Damon, I think they are the same in the end. Especially Koji, who has been revealed to have weaknesses in his predictions through Jippo. And that was proven when he declared that Boruto was done for, no doubt. And at that point, everything changed and Boruto did not really end, right? On the other hand, Kawaki is actually the same as Boruto himself. I mean, Boruto basically can't enter his horned mode at will, because when he awakens that horned mode, he's already been completely possessed by momoshiki. This means that both Kawaki and Boruto share the same problem. Neither of them has full access to control that mode as they please. And if we go back to the flashback when Koji explained in detail about the Hiraishin ability to Boruto, there is one narrative that I think is related to the main topic this time. In short, Koji said that in the past, Boruto had manifested the potential of space-time ninjutsu several times. However, all of those occurrences happened spontaneously due to factors that couldn't be reproduced. It was concluded that Boruto still couldn't control that ability. This also means that both Boruto and Kawaki haven't completely mastered all of the Otsutsuki powers yet, since there are certain factors that cannot be intentionally recreated. Once again, those powers can only manifest through single accidental incidents. Does this mean that Chapter 27 is the time that answers all of these questions? I don't think so. Not for now. Then when and at what timing will we be able to see Kawaki's transformation mode with one horn? In my opinion, there is only one answer: the deepest desire to protect the people he considers valuable. Believe it or not, since the Kishimoto era and continuing into the Ikemoto era, every shinobi has always revolved around one pattern. What I mean is, only ambition. The deepest desire is what truly brings out or awakens their best potential. Because, of course, this is Jura's own analysis after seeing how the pattern of love makes those shinobi awaken their powers. And as a final conclusion, I think it makes sense that every cyborg has issues with controlling their own power. Examples we can see from Ida or Koji are actually enough to serve as evidence. But the most relevant evidence to support this theory lies in Kawaki's own desires and ambitions. If Naruto is eventually forcibly freed by an enemy like Jura, this may be the point where we will see Kawaki's full transformation mode with one horn on his head. But in addition to that, I think Amado is actually the key. In other words, it's Amado who truly controls the horned karma mode. Because after all, that transformation has a massive power output. And that also means there must be some kind of risk that hasn't been revealed yet. Remember, it's impossible for a power that great to exist without any consequences behind it. And of course, Amado would create several scenarios to ensure Kawaki stays alive until his daughter is fully brought back to life. That's more or less what I think. But what do you guys think? If you have your own perspective, don't hesitate to comment, because I will respond to everything as a way of appreciating all of you. So yeah, thank you for watching, liking, and subscribing. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye-bye, Dada Bio.